Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to NBA Live 2003 for the Nintendo GameCube. This is a basic playoff mode that I'm going to be playing here. I was considering doing a season, but that, I don't know how interesting I can keep it for an 82 game season. Maybe a shorter one would be easier. I'm doing 3 minutes because I don't want to make you, try to shove all this stuff into a, 40 minute or a 30 minute long video. 3 minutes I figure will be enough time to get out what I want to say without too much of a drag in between. This is NBA Live 2003, not the first NBA game I ever played. The first one not even the first one I really latched onto now that I think about it, because I played a lot of NBA Showtime on the Nintendo 64. Let me do something first. Baseline low, and you take zoom level all the way back. That keeps you in on the action, but also doesn't have you way too close, which is the default thing. Also allows you to see most of the other players. Anyway, my first basketball game was Showtime on the N64, which I later bought on Dreamcast. I mean, years later, probably when I was in high school. I had the N64 game when I was in elementary, probably before elementary. Well, I was like 5 years old when I got my Nintendo 64. Probably didn't have the game until 2001. So, anyway, unimportant. You don't even need to know how old I am. I've probably pieced together enough information that if you go through all of my videos, you can figure out my age exactly. But I am 20 years old, so I'll just tell you right there. Hey, there we go. Alright, anyway, this was then I had NBA Courtside 2002 after that on the GameCube, which I didn't play as much as I did Showtime because they had Tony Hawk 3, and Tony Hawk 3 kind of trumped everything. Why did I take the floater there? Mike Finley, you should go for a dunk, generally. That's like the rule of Michael Finley, is that he's going to go up and dunk. That was really what he was best at. He was an okay shooter, too. Oh, well, that was great. I just spun Steve Nash out of bounds. This was the first game I wouldn't say I got good at, because I had a friend who just totally demolished me every time we played. Well, okay, I should put a qualifier on that statement. He demolished me every time we played because I would pick this team, the Dallas Mavericks, and then he'd end up picking like the 1980 Hall of Famers or something like that. Like they had a team of the best players from every decade, and he'd be like playing with Larry Bird and Magic and Dr. J, and I'd be over here with the Mavericks. I don't know why I didn't pick like the 1990s team. I just wanted to, play with the team I knew. This was really the first team I could have named the entire starting five for. Even though this entire starting five wasn't the one that really stuck around the whole year. I don't remember how long Raef Lafrentz. I don't know that Raef Lafrentz finished the entire season in 2003 with the Mavericks. He was not there in 2004. They'd either moved on to... No, they hadn't moved on to Eric Dampier by that. He may have still been there then. In 2003, 2004. Because after they traded Nash away, or maybe... No, they didn't re-sign him during free agency. Picked up Jason Terry, and then eventually went and spent all that money on Eric Dampier, which theoretically was a terrible decision. Like, if you really think about it, because as it turns out, Steve Nash ended up being, the two-time MVP, and in between 2004 and between 2005 and 2007, they would have had 3 straight MVPs on their team with Nash, and then Nowitzki. So, I mean, 2 players, 3 MVP awards between the 2 of them. That's pretty impressive. Okay, this is a typical thing. You'll get a pick and roll play by the AI that will just not go anywhere because nobody moves. That's something that happens in this game, not as much as it does in a lot of other games of the era, because a lot of other games at that time would you would kind of make it past half court and just kind of pound the ball on the on the floor until the shot clock ran out, and then you take a shot. They might pass it around once or twice. Either that or they just go to the hoop. There's a God, what game was it? It was a college. It was Final Four 1999 for the PlayStation. It used to be a game that I loved for some reason. And then I figured out the reason I loved it was because I was good at it, and the reason I was good... Oh, wow, that was a terrible foul. The reason I was good at it, though, was... Wait, Joe Green and Dirk Nowitzki and Raef Lafrentz are all making the same animation at the same time. That's weird. The reason I figured out why I was so good at it was because there was no defense, and the only offense is basically just run around and... just dunk, which, okay, that was a bad decision. Dirk Nowitzki getting the offensive rebound, though, that is a good thing. Is it not? I don't know how to pronounce that guy's last name. I still don't. He was like my favorite. He was one of my first favorite players. Like all of my favorite players initially were basically, I loved Michael Finley because he could, oh shit. Oh well. I love Finley because he was so good at dunking in NBA Showtime, and then I didn't, because the Mavericks players in Showtime were like Steve Nash, Michael Finley, Cedric Ceballos, and Sean Bradley, I think, or it may have been Juwan Howard at that point. I don't remember. Now that's an open three that I will take and I will make. But then I got to 2002 and the team to Courtside 2002, and that was after the redesign, where they went from the M wearing a hat, which is still one of my favorite logos, because it's just so like there's something really 1980s about it, but like good 1980s, not like when you think of 1980s, you think kind of like Technicolor and all that sort of neon jumpsuits and whatever. That might be a little bit more 90s, but you think of 80s logos, I think of like God, I can't even think of it in 80s. What is... That was a dumb decision. Alright, good job, Joe. I can't even think of a more 80s logo than that, because it's just so, like, simple. It's like, yeah, we're the Mavericks from Dallas, and so what do they have in Dallas? Well, Cowboys, which is in Texas. So how about an M wearing a cowboy hat? Why do I keep just taking threes with Michael Finley? He's not the guy to take threes with. He used to be the guy to take threes with. He didn't have trouble making threes in Showtime. Or Courtside 2002. I was like genuinely surprised when I first started this game out, because I was like, alright, I'll give it to Finley behind the 3-point line. And this was probably 2002 when the game was new, when I went and bought this. I was like, give it to Finley, take the three, miss. Alright. Finley take the three, miss, and just consistently missing. Also, I don't know that I knew who Dirk Nowitzki was. I may have recognized his name, and I knew he was a good shooter because he was in the 3-point shootout mode in Courtside 2002, but, I mean, I didn't really know who he was. There we go. Alright, we'll make a free throw. 4 of 6. The 03 Timberwolves were really the last time that... But no, I mean, not the 03, maybe 05, but... Wait, when was the last time that Kevin Garnett's team was... Like, Kevin Garnett's Minnesota teams. Really, I think it was 2004 was their last really good season. Before, Well, I mean, before now, because they're not even good now. They were like 500 last year. And then they traded Kevin Love to Cleveland, and now they have Andrew Wiggins and Jahlil Okafor. That's going to be a good team, the Minnesota Timberwolves in the future. Now, who's going to be a bad team? Probably the Dallas Mavericks. At a half, we were up by 4, 23-27. This is the basic playoff structure of 2002. We will go 5-7-7-7, meaning 5-game series. This one, best of 3, or best of 5, first of 3 games, and then a basic 7-game series for the rest of them. In modern NBA, of course, it is 7-game series all the way throughout the playoffs. I think to maximize revenue, they should make the NBA Finals a 9-game series. Or do what I think it was Bill Simmons wrote. And at the beginning, at the end of the season, you take the 8th seed. Like, the 8th seed isn't guaranteed. You have a single or double elimination tournament for the, like, seeds 8 through, I guess it would be 11. And the winner of that, like, double elimination tournament, whatever, tournament wins the 8th seed and gets to go into the playoffs. That gives everybody outside of the 8th seed a period of rest, and then also makes it incredibly entertaining because you're gonna see a team that just kind of slips into the 11th position in the West, like the Utah Jazz, who just get hot and match up well against every other team, and suddenly find a way in to the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if Utah makes the playoffs this year. The only time I'd be actually surprised if they made the playoffs. I would be surprised if the Mavericks make the playoffs next year. If they do, it'll be an 8th or maybe a 7, but that would mean Chandler Parsons would have to play on an otherworldly level, and the new guy that picked up Matthews would have to be really, really good to make up for the DeAndre Jordan-sized hole that they now have in their soul. Najera can't dunk, which I think is my favorite aspect of his play style, because you can give the ball to him right beneath the basket, and he will just miss a jump shot directly beneath the basket. Because he can't dunk. And there was a game I remember playing where I got him on like a fast break drive and went in, and he went up with the dunk animation and just got stuffed by the rim, which was beautiful. Alright, we got the rebound with Lafrentz. We got Finley. There we go. Dunking on Sczerbiak. Good old Wally Sczerbiak. I heard his name for the first time in a really long time at the NBA draft. Because Jalen Rose was doing his thing where he would, like every pick that was made, he would compare that player to an existing NBA player. So it was like Jahlil Okafor, he's the next Patrick Ewing, that sort of thing. Joel Embiid, well, it wasn't Joel Embiid in this particular draft, but it was stuff like that where it was like finding a player, and most of them I thought were okay. I thought it was bizarre. Well, the one I'm about to bring up, it was Sam Decker of Wisconsin, and he was like, I see him as the next Wally Sczerbiak, and it's like, okay. It's kind of setting a low ceiling for him, though. That's like kind of admitting that you're not going to get that much out of him. You might get something. Like, Wally Sczerbiak was never a bad player in his prime, at least. Dirk Nowitzki on the... Oh, God, what the fuck word am I looking for? On the fast break? How did that escape my mind? Block at Lafrentz. Come on. Alright, so we enter the fourth quarter up 16. It is a good day in Dallas for the Mavericks. Not really having too much trouble with these Timberwolves. These Timberwolves, I can name a surprisingly small number of. Well, not that surprising. I don't know Nestorovich's first name. I know his last name, though. Oh, Kevin Arnett just totally got knocked over. That's good. Garnett was really the only really good player on that team, though, until 2004 when they had Latrell Sprewell and, God, who else? Yeah, and Sam Cassell, that's right. It was Kevin Garnett, Latrell Sprewell, and Sam Cassell, and I think they all made the All-Star game, or at least two of them did. Garnett and and Sprewell at least did. Then Kevin Garnett's still playing, which is also surprising. He is, I believe, the first player, if the statistic I read was right, he is the first player ever to play in his teens, 20s, 30s, and 40s, which is impressive. I'll give him that. You forget how, like, Kevin Garnett's one of the only players that was drafted in the 1990s that's still in the league, which is, I think it's actually a higher number for basketball than it is for football, because if I remember correctly, the only guys still in the league for football are like Peyton Manning, Matt Hasselbeck, who is surprisingly still in the game. I think he's 39. Whoever the kicker is for the or who was the kicker, Hansen, right? For the Browns, not important. Anyway, there are only like 5 or 6 players drafted in the '90s still in the National Football League. Meanwhile, like Duncan, Nowitzki, Kobe Bryant, Kevin Garnett. I mean, Derek Fisher isn't in the game anymore. I can't think of anybody else. Steve Nash just retired last year. So. We're slipping further and further away from the '90s. And it's not like that bad of a thing. Because, well, how would I say it was a bad thing? It's just a thing that is happening. It is the passage of time. I want to imagine somebody getting angry about that. Like, all these guys are retiring. None of the guys I grew up with are still in the game. That's why I hate it. I actually knew a guy who the game was so based around, like, he grew up in New York City, and he just didn't... After, you know, you grow up with a certain player, after Patrick Ewing retired, he just, like, kind of stopped watching. Which I think is admirable, because, I mean, if you base your kind of fandom around one guy and they retire, then, you know, what are you going to watch? If you really care the most about that one player, then I can understand that kind of ruining the game for you. I don't have, like, a favorite... like, that never happened to me, because I didn't... I kind of stopped watching basketball, actually, for about a couple of months, at least, after Finley went to the San Antonio Spurs. But I was in elementary school then, and I think that's different. So this is a pretty easy victory that we surprisingly got. Not surprisingly, but I didn't expect it to be this easy. Because this is about the 3rd time I've recorded this. We had a mix-up both times where... stuff happened around me, or my microphone again messed up, like in that Mario 64 video. Oh no. That was a total foul, by the way. That was not even like a clean block. Jer scoring. And uncharacteristically celebrating. I don't think he was even starting in 2003. That may have been a preseason, like, starting lineup. But I don't remember anything about Eduardo Najera. So we end that first game. Wow, were we really that surprised that we won a 28-point game? I find that hard to believe. Timberwolves, furious. Player of the game, I'm guessing, is Michael Finley. And indeed it is. 31 points. Over half of the Mavericks' points. And thus ends the inaugural episode of NBA Live 2003 Playoffs. I will go ahead and show you the playoff tree. It is a basic 5-7-7-7 playoff thing, as I already told you about. Both the Eastern and Western Conferences is the default thing, which is basically just the 2002 playoffs. So you'll notice it's the 2002 playoffs. Sacramento at the 1, and the Lakers in 3rd. Of course, the Lakers ended up coming out of that bracket anyway. So that's, we're going pretty chalk here in the East, and then in the West, Portland gets the upset in the first game, and Seattle surprisingly taking it to the San Antonio Spurs. I'm going to go ahead and save so I can pick this up another time. Thank you for watching.